Okay, welcome to the TrotCast Revolution, presented by Diamond Creek Farms, a cut above. I'm your host, Jay Hochsteller, and I am joined by my co-host.
Always Ryan Macedonio. Jay, how you doing?
I'm excellent. I'm good.
You ready to rock and roll?
It is a great day in podcasting world.
Why is that? I didn't know it was a great day.
We are going to talk about a hill that I am willing to die on.
It
is something I am very passionate about.
A hill or a mountain? I thought it was a mountain to die on. Kate, put it on the poll. Is it a hill or a mountain that you die on?
Oh, mountains are too hard to climb. I like to be
mountains are okay. So we're gonna die on the hill. So all right. Let's jump right in. We have no shameless self promotion to get to. You want to jump right in? Let's rock and roll, Jay.
Yeah, we'll promote ourselves at the end here. We basically kind of have it's more of a kind of inside harness racing thing. It's not really a like broad spectrum industry improvement thing, although it could be if it gets good enough. It's kind of paddock etiquette for drivers, trainers, horsemen, and you're like, oh man, like it's a huge deal to me, and that's why I said it's a hill I'm willing to die on, because there are things that happen that just drive me up a wall, and I think it's a huge negative for the industry when stuff like this happens.
Okay, so do you want to list off the people that are in the paddock? We had drivers, trainers, owners, caretakers, and horses. Listen, horses that are watching this video and listening to this podcast, we're not going to eliminate you. We're going to take shots at you horses too on how you.
I know you're listening. Always be Mickey. I can see you.
Wiggle it, jiggle it. You know, you're a pain in the ass in the paddock. We all know you. So let's. Who do you want to go after first, or what area do you want to cover first? Drivers, trainers, or do you want to hodgepodge it?
Let's get the glamour boys. Let's get the drivers right out of the way right at this beginning. So
all right, rock and roll, Jay.
So while I have drove a little bit, I'm basically a trainer. That's my primary function for the last few years in harness racing, and my biggest pet peeve is often with how drivers act in the paddock. It drives me insane to see, and my biggest thing, and it's the one thing that I will just go nuts over, and I have to allow it to happen because I am this low second trainer boy, and I can't confront the top guys in the industry often. But when I have to go grab the bike from the driver after they get done with the race before me, and I have to bring it back to my horse and set it down, and then I'll get my horse all ready with a groom, or it's just myself, and then I will bring up the horse all the way until about maybe 5 to 10 feet before the racetrack, and then the driver hops on, and maybe I can get in 2 words to him about the horse before they are on the track, and he's already probably tuned me out anyways. This is the biggest slap of disrespect, in my opinion, in harness racing. I have never mattered than when this happens, and it happens all the time at every track I go to, and there are maybe 1 or 2 drivers at each track that might come back and not do any of the stuff that makes me mad. And it just drives me crazy, and I don't see there's no reason for it. That's my biggest thing.
All right, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, because I'm gonna try to play on the side of the drivers, because I understand from a trainer's perspective how it looks, how you as a trainer, you've devoted all this time, all this energy into the week or possibly weeks leading up to this race, and you can't even get more than 3 words out of the driver or to the driver, because like you said, you walk the horse up and they're coming right out of the driver's room. They grab the lines, they basically tune you out, and they jump right on the track, and that's it. Now, here's my perspective on that is, if there is something so important that a trainer has to tell the driver, then why don't you search the driver out beforehand, either the day up to the race or earlier on the race card? Is it because you think maybe because if a driver's driving 12 races, do you think that it's only pertinent to give him when it's at the most pertinent time is right before he steps out on the racetrack, or why don't you give him information a little bit sooner?
Personally, I think when a driver's driving on that day, he has a short memory, and they have to have a short memory. I think to be a good driver, you have to have one. And so for me, if all 12 trainers, if all 12 races came up before the races and told you things, like it's not that easy to just be like pick up the lines and go, oh, this horse, yeah, he wanted me to do this, this, and this, or I had to know this, this, and this. If I tell you in the, there's a good 5 to 10 minutes before they get off and they go to the next horse and everything like that. There's a solid amount of time where you can talk, and just be able to do that. And on top of that, it's not even like like even if I don't have to tell you anything, just come back. Just you can bring your own bike back to the horse. You are not that important that you can not even be like courteous enough to help get the bike off, hold it yourself, and then bring it back to your next drive. Like, we are putting our livelihoods in your hands, and you're putting your livelihood in our hands. Is it that big of a deal for you to maybe come back and maybe check if the lines are hooked and maybe make sure all the equipment's on, adequately enough that your life is not in danger? You can't do that when you're just hopping onto the horse and 5 feet before the track. So not only is it important for a respect thing, it's your own damn safety.
Okay, I'll give you that plus two, the world that we live in now, where most of the time trainers aren't at the racetrack and they're sending a lot of caretakers and second trainers. Not that they're not qualified, but the reality is a lot of the times it's not one caretaker per horse. Caretakers are trying to get 2 to 3 paddocks to make enough money to make their trip to the racetrack worthwhile. So a lot of times they're running around, they're going from horse to horse, they're trying to get things together. So yeah, there is a really good possibility that something could be unsnapped, unhinged, unbuckled, whatever. So I definitely agree with you that a driver, it looks good if a driver could at least come out, check the horse, just have a conversation. Forget about the actual horse and instructions on the race. Because there's one thing I hate more than a trainer trying to give instructions to the driver that isn't pertinent about the behavior of the horse. Rather, the trainers I hate when trainers tell drivers how to drive a race. You train the horse, you tell me. As a driver, I only want to know how is the behavior of the horse. That's all I care about as a driver. I don't care about what you think how I should drive in the race, because if you don't like the way that I drive your horse, then you drive him yourself. You get out there.
Yeah.
Most trainers are overweight and older. You get out there. Go ahead. See how you do it. I only want to know as a driver, how is the horse behavior wise? Is he okay behind the gate? How is he post parading? How is his mouth? Is his mouth soft? Does he have a hard mouth? What does he respond to on behavior aspects? I don't care about how you want me to leave out of the 8-hole when I'm 40-1 because you didn't know how to classify your horse. So there's my rant.
I totally agree. Even when a driver has come up and like asked, me or my dad, like, well, how do you want me to race this horse? I said, no. I'm giving you 5% of what I'm making here, because I trust you to make the right decision in that circumstance. Like that is why you're a catch driver, is because you get to make those choices. But yeah, like that's all I want to be able to tell you is, oh, you're good on the horse is good on the gate, or maybe, hey, keep him off a little bit, he'll get too hot. Just different little stuff like that. All it's going to do is make your life easier, is if you know these things. And, obviously, I'm sure, like, one of the reasons they don't come to the horse is because there are plenty of trainers who want to tell you exactly how to drive the horse. But you know what? The guy's trusting with your business. You don't have to, take every second of his word as gospel. Just, be courteous, come back there, grab the lines, just talk a little bit, say, oh, this is what, ask how things are going. It's just little respect and common courtesy for two people engaging in a pretty serious business transaction.
Absolutely. Now let's look at the flip side of that, because I think it's also important. Now, because in this scenario, a horse comes off the track, driver comes off the track, and like what you're saying, things that bother you are, it bothers me when a driver is upset or annoyed outwardly. Now you can, if a driver makes a mistake or the horse isn't up to performance and the horse, let's say, finishes last, don't you think that the trainer is also upset? Like, for the driver to be upset at the trainer, right? For the horse not putting on a good performance, the trainer is also aware of the performance of the horse. So I don't like when a driver takes it out, especially on the caretakers. A lot of times they take it out on the caretakers.
That is my, I mean, that's kind of where all this stems from for me, is because I've been in a situation where I'm the only person with the horse. I have to, grab the horse, uncheck it, take head pulls off, and the driver's pissed off and he throws the lines over the back of the horse, doesn't help me get one quick hitch unhooked or anything, and just walks away. That is so, that's just dangerous on top of just the complete disrespect. Yeah, life sucks. You're going to have some last place finishes. That doesn't mean you have to act like a jackass just because you didn't get what you wanted and got to the winner's circle. Just be a human being. That's why why I'm saying all this, is because I don't even think some people realize it. Just be aware of who you're affecting when you're mad. This is not even horse things. This is just people to people interactions.
Now, I would also say the other side of this is I want my driver to be upset when we don't win. I want, but I want, there's a certain athletic mentality that you have to have where even if you win, you still want to be better. And I think that over time you develop I've had plenty of drivers that driven for me when I was a trainer, and I would say I had a very good relationship with Jimmy Marone Jr. I would say that was the most interesting relationship I had with him when he was driving at Tioga, Monticello, Meadowlands, things like that. And basically, me and him had a relationship and an understanding that my horses came to rock and roll, and we're rocking and rolling, and that's it. And we won a quarter of the starts that we teamed up. And I didn't have to talk to him. I didn't have to explain to him certain things. And because we had success together, he gave me more courtesy than maybe he would have given other people, because of the simple fact that I was making him money and he was making me money. So our relationship grew as it goes. It's real tough when you have a bad race to start out a relationship. And a lot of times a new relationship starts because a driver picked off your horse. You put Yannick down to drive and you got the 10 hole, and then Yannick picks the favorite from the rail, and then you're stuck with somebody new. And then, well, that's a bad way to start a relationship, because you got the 10 hole and you're probably not going to be in the money. So it's a bad way to start a relationship, because you're not going to have a great chance to succeed. So I think that's a big part of just relationship values, and maybe people don't want to try to extend a relationship beyond, hey, give me the horse, put me down to drive, and move on.
Yeah, and and it's a problem. And if any drivers listening to this, just be aware that I'm far from the only one that thinks this. There's, grooms and trainers might not outwardly show it to you, but it pisses off so many people when stuff exactly like we've been talking about happen. And it will boil up over time, and eventually stuff goes awry, and then it's going to be all taken out on you. And it might not even be that specific instance. It's just acting like a jackass over and over again.
I would say, how do we, I just want to go through a driver's 5 minutes or in between races. So a driver gets off the racetrack, because we try to fix things here. That's basically what we want to do. We want to try to fix things. So a driver gets off the track and let's say he hands the lines off to the second trainer, to the caretaker, and he helps pull the bike off. That's all we're really asking. Just help pull the bike off.
Yeah, that's all.
I don't think that's asking too much. That just shows common courtesy, because it's also their bike. They paid a lot of money for the bike.
Yeah.
They're paying a couple $1,000 for the bike, and so they should care. In between races, right? What are we allowing a driver to do, and what can a driver do to help in between races? So I think it changes on muddy days, and I think it changes on cold winter days. I think a driver can do whatever they want to do on a cold day or a muddy day, because they have to maybe change clothes, they have to wipe off their glasses, they have to get warm.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is for summer days from May to October.
Yeah, because currently the behavior doesn't change no matter the weather. So, but let's say it's a perfect day and there's nothing that you really are mandatory obligations in between the race. So by all means, help unhook the bike. That's the first thing. And at least take the bike somewhere away from the action, or if you really want to be nice, go bring the bike to your next horse. It's not obligated, but it is. I always appreciate when a driver actually does that. and then go get a drink of water, go look at the program, whatever the little amount of things that you have to do, because really there's not that much you have to do besides wipe the glasses off, take a drink of water, look at the next race. And then when they call, you'll hear the paddock judge, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5, 2, in that area. Just walk back there, and when the horse is pretty much already ready, and if the horse isn't already ready, maybe you might want to lend a hand or something like that if, just things aren't going right. But just be there before the horse starts moving out of the stall. That's all I really ask for. Just come back to that exact spot before the horse is actually out in the walkway heading to the track. That is literally my bare minimum requirement. So there's just a little bit of grace period where you can just say hi and anything I should know. It's just that's all it takes to not make me infuriated at you.
Do you think that part of the driver fraternity is a major actual preparation and part of the driver's job? Meaning in between races, if all of the drivers reconvene in the driver's room, right? And they're kind of fraternizing with each other and discussing the last race or discussing whatever they're going to be doing in the future races. Do you think that if a driver consistently left early to go do exactly what you're saying and go check on this, go check on that, converse with other people, do you think it's more important for them to be friendly with their other drivers because that relationship can affect their on-track performance versus a kind of isolated driver who doesn't really get along with some of the other drivers on a personal level, who is always out in the paddock trying to, whether it's politic or talk to other trainers? Because I think some drivers will look at that as, look at this asshole over here. He's always politicking. He's kissing ass. He's going out. He's always looking at talking to the trainers and talking to the owners, and he's trying to steal my drive. Do you think that would have a negative effect for one driver doing that?
See, I say no because in the period that we said you can go get a drink of water, look at the program, and clean off your glass and all that, all the drivers are basically in the same exact spot when all this is happening. So you're still able to give a little chit chat about the last race. Maybe something special happened. You also have all the time before the races when drivers have to be there 30 minutes or whatever before the races even start to check in. And you also have after the races and races that you aren't in the next race of. So there's plenty of time to fraternize. I've been around enough racetracks. Drivers have no problem shooting the shit with people from top to bottom. That is one of their skills, which is why I say, why can't you just come back to me and shoot the shit for 30 seconds?
Do you think, what could a driver do? Is it more important for the driver to be responsible for what's going on specifically at the racetrack? Or do you think that they could use that couple of minutes wisely to help maybe do some social media things and spread the word outward, which I honestly don't know if that's a route that drivers should go, because we go back to Joe Bongiorno a couple years ago, and if they say the wrong thing, God forbid a driver says anything, it could be used against them, which is why we've seen the decline of drivers actually using social media to discuss races, because they don't want to have any of their drives taken away or lose, anything could be taken the wrong way and construed against them. So they almost don't want to go and say anything. So I don't know if that's a way that we can help the industry.
I think most of the social media work for a driver basically has to be done before the card starts and after the card reactions or whatever. For one thing, most drivers don't have they have their phones put in their lockers or whatever. So, it's just kind of time consuming to go in there, take it out, put it back up, lock it up and all that jazz. And, also, it's also kind of the thing of, don't put a mic in front of somebody's face that's mad. So maybe not in terms of avoiding serious conflicts and stuff, probably not the best thing for drivers to hop on their phone right after a race when somebody put a wheel under them or whatever and expect them to put stuff on social media. That's why I usually think, before the races when there's not any conflict going on, and after the races when they had a little time to maybe simmer down a little bit, because we want like a competitive spirit, and it's just human nature to sometimes lash out when stuff out of your control happens to you with your livelihood on the line.
So basically we're saying from race 1 to the last race, we don't think that drivers should post anything on social media. That's pretty much fair, right?
I mean, if I would say, maybe if you have like a race off or something, you can react to that, or maybe like when you're watching other races and stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't really advise, you know, reacting to the race you just got off the bike on. Just because whether you win or lost, it's probably not. You know, there's plenty. In my opinion, that's the racetrack's job to either A, interview you, or B, just putting out reaction to races. That, you know, it's their job to publicize it and find people to, you know, make this as and have a consumer base that also reacts to their races. If they want a driver to get their thing on it, have someone in the paddock that can talk to them and be able to help filter out any, you know, issues.
Do you think that before the race card and after the race card, do you think that drivers should be responsible for social media, for press conferences, for things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay,
100%.
so how long, let's talk about before the races. How long before the races start, and what exactly do you think are we talking about going over? Again, I don't want to hear the opinion of a driver, ever. And I know I'm in the minority on this one because they're never going to give me anything that is actually interesting or worthwhile. So I don't ever want to hear from a driver, honestly, on social media unless it is fun. Here's what we can do. I would love to see Tim Tetrick have his phone throughout the race card taking snaps of his horses that he's driving. What is the harm of that? He can go throughout the paddock and say, "Hey, boom, there's a picture of my horse coming up in race 2." That's all he can do. Take a picture of the horse, take a picture of the caretaker, boom. This is who I'm driving in 20 minutes. Here's the caretaker. He doesn't even have to say that. He can just say, "Boom, I'm racing Nike Franco coming up in 20 minutes." And that's all I want. That's the only thing that I want to hear on social media from a driver is enlightening, be interesting.
I think would be even better than that is actually drivers who aren't in the race giving insight into the race that's going on. Like a driver that has the race off, I think that would be the best time because they're not obligated to say, "Oh, well, this horse has a shot," because you can't say, "Oh, my horse is a rat. He's got no shot. I'm just going to take him off and not even move him," you know. This way the guy can be like, "Well, this horse, he's outclassed. He'll probably be in the back. He's got no position to be in here." And if he's wrong and the horse goes to the front, it doesn't matter because he's not in the race. And he's not in control of that horse. So that's where I think a driver in between races could be really valuable, is when they're just playing the role of a handicapper, basically. Because, I mean, they know these horses. They're probably a regular at the track. Their insight is actually valued.
I love that idea. Because realistically, let's say Yonkers or Meadowlands or whatever, there's not only 8 drivers there. There's going to be, 10, 12, 13. There's always somebody off. And on the rare time when, say, Bartlett isn't driving in a race, who's the leading driver, that's when you have to grab him. That's when you have to say, "Hey, we want you to handicap this race because it's the only one you're not in, and we want to hear what you have to say." So I love that idea. So drivers in races you're not, and when you're in a race, all I want to hear is be the human interest story. Humanize everything that's involved in the race. I don't want to hear what you think about, should be better this week. I never want to hear trainer reports. I never want to hear any of that stuff because it's the horse player's job to deal with all of the actual data, not the bullshit. "Oh, you trained well. Oh, I think you should be better." No,
everybody trains well. It's amazing. No horse has ever trained bad before a race in the history of harness racing.
Exactly.
According to media.
I would love to, and God forbid a trainer says he trained terrible this week. Oh my God, well, he's going to get fined and suspended because why are you putting a horse in that is sick? So I never want to hear from that. So we just came up with a couple of new ideas that we don't see anywhere.
Yeah.
What about after the race? After the races, what would be interesting for you as content? Do you want to hear from the drivers on their car? Do you think that they would be truthful and interesting, recapping their night?
Yeah, I've always agreed with that because I think with drivers, there's a lot of times where you'll be like, "Man, why didn't he leave with that horse?" And you know what? Maybe that horse was, just felt a little uncomfortable behind the gate, and he really didn't feel confident, stepping on the gas right out of the gate. You couldn't see that from the video, but you would know that as you're a driver. And the only way the public's going to know about that is if the driver tells you. That's where I think it's really, or like, "Why didn't you pull that horse?" "Well, he was kind of locked on this line. I really couldn't move him out without, taking him off balance." That is stuff where I think it's really valuable, and there's currently no way to know. And all you get is, oh, well, he didn't want to pull him out because he stiffed him. No, there was probably a damn good reason why he didn't pull him out.
Do you think that that's the driver's responsibility to get the information out?
I think it'd be more of a customer question thing, or maybe a track question thing.
And I picked a random Friday card or Saturday card, and I went to Bartlett's house, and we went over 5 just random races. And they were 5 out of the 13 or 12 that Yonkers had, just a random Saturday. And I picked 5 that were all completely different. He won, he finished second, he got beat with a favorite, he won with a long shot. I had 5 different races that were all completely different. And we went through, and you can go back on TrotCast, shameless plug, and watch Jason Bartlett Film Study. And we broke down 5 of the races. Now that took me a couple days to edit and produce and go over with Jason and do everything like that. So what's the time frame on, is within a week? Because those horses, right, they're not racing the next day. So maybe having a couple of races each week that we go over and we produce, and we can pull different drivers in to discuss each race. I think that I don't know if you can get every single race, and I don't think it does it justice by just asking for one comment, because certain things you have to watch the whole race. You have to kind of remember, you have to go through and explain short or longer than just a single comment. He's not good here. I don't think that does it service. So I think you actually have to do that in long form.
Yeah, I think that would be a great, like a pre-race card like show. That's the perfect time for it, in my opinion, where you can bring the driver on. He doesn't have any obligations yet. And you're just like, hey, we're going to pull up 4 races here. Just kind of have you walk us through kind of what happened. And, maybe it's just special instances of the races. And you know what I'd love to hear just one time is just, and because people are apparently, a driver never makes just a mistake. It's always, he's either stiffing or he's just completely useless as a driver, or he just wasn't trying. I just want to hear like the driver to be like, yeah, I should have pulled. I just messed up. That's all there is to it. I just didn't pull quick enough. And that's completely an acceptable answer. They're athletes. Nobody, when LeBron James throws a ball out of bounds, nobody's like, well, he's stiff in that game. He just threw that ball out of bounds because he was wanting to lose. No, he made a mistake. The same way a driver doesn't pull quick enough because some other driver got the jump on him. It's okay to admit that you're wrong, and it's okay for the public to recognize, hey, maybe the driver just messed up. As every driver does.
That's not the way of the world, Jay. When Alex Smith throws an interception, we want to rip him. We want to tear down his whole foundation. When Bartlett, doesn't pull and he gets beat, we want to tear down his whole foundation, because all of the things that he built up, we just want to tear down. You're either the best driver ever or the worst driver ever.
We can do that, but at the same time, do you need to bring a gambler onto the set at the same time, and we got to pull up his tickets to the camera, and the driver can go, what were you doing putting that horse on top?
Yeah, what are you thinking?
Were you smoking something when you put that horse to win? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you, you dopes? But, I mean, it's the way of the world now, where the drivers, that comes with it, where they're in the spotlight, and that's part of the deal. You just have to deal with some anger. You're never going to make everybody happy, and you just have to deal with it. So I think that...
Oh, absolutely. But I think more production with them explaining what happened would go a long way to kind of tempering that a little bit. Because current silence is the worst way to just let people throw their opinions out there and never get a response back, and their opinion stays the same.
Real talk here. Who is going to pay for this exact production show that we're talking about? Because here's the reality. How many people would watch that show? How many people would watch that production? And because I think that most racetracks and horsemen's associations feel that the amount of production that they would have to put in and the amount that they would have to pay does not offset the cost of gaining some insight into what the drivers feel and recap after the race. That is the real problem, that they're just the echo chamber of a small amount of people yelling about how drivers are doesn't equate to them watching the answers of the drivers to even just break even. Tracks are going to lose money producing this show because we don't have enough people watching that type of content unless we set forth with a game plan united to help grow these new style of programs.
Obviously, you do it on a night when all of your workers and broadcasters are already there. So, I mean, obviously do it right before the races where, you're not adding excess time or days onto, your labor force. And the next thing, just showing it before the races and never putting it anywhere else is the worst thing you could do. This thing would need to be on YouTube, on your Facebook channel. It's not part of your, racing simulcast, so you can put it on Facebook Live, Periscope, whatever you want, and also have it on your show. And therefore you're expanding your audience. It can be you can go back and watch it whenever you want. You can watch 5 of them at once if you did it this way. If you put them all up on YouTube or something on top of having it on your regular broadcast. So it's all about expanding your audience and giving as much availability to it as possible.
You're talking about a commitment that I don't think that a lot of tracks and horsemen's associations are willing to actually do, because there's no way that these ideas haven't come across the desks of everybody who's in marketing and production and looking over the accounting books. There's no way that every track hasn't looked at this and said, yeah, we don't see we don't want to commit the time because we don't necessarily think that we're going to get the playback. Now that maybe that's them not doing their job. Maybe that's failed marketing departments, failed ad, you're supposed to solicit ads and things like that. So maybe it's a failed overall, and those people, but they also, a lot of tracks have cut their pregame shows where other sports are flourishing. Their pregame shows are flourishing. So, it's a tough area, and we're not in a position to produce or anything for tracks. So how does this work when it's a track's obligation to make money, but they don't feel that it's their obligation to just throw money away?
Yeah, and this kind of all traces back to why aren't we investing money to advance our product? Maybe we shouldn't have a $50,000 open. Maybe we can take 3,000 of that each week and put it towards a show. Is that such an outlandish thing to do? I don't think so.
Well, here's the problem.
That's where your priorities have to change.
Every slot revenue design racetrack is going to say, well, we gave slots money towards purses, and why don't we take some of that? It could be as simple as if the horsemen all agree to it. That's the simplest thing, but horsemen will not agree to it.
It becomes the only thing that this would benefit is the horsemen, because we actually need it to benefit us. The other people could care less. So we have to grow a set of stones and say, hey, we want to put on a lively product from when our signal turns on to when our signal turns off. Mm-hmm. Because we are the only people that are actually going to benefit for us. Because the casinos and stuff, they could give two shits if this flourishes or not. It would be better if it would just died for them. So in order to counteract that, the horsemen have to say, hey, we want to build our product up, so maybe we will take $3,000 a week out of the purse account and put it towards a show, or whatever amount makes it a serviceable product.
We can all argue that the money's there. There is money floating around.
Yeah, don't tell me the money's not there, because it's really not that expensive of a thing to do if you just set aside a fraction of money for it.
So, is there anything else that we want to cover? Because I think we've pretty much hit on all notes. Oh, one last thing though, I got on my notes. Tell me how you feel about trainer temper tantrums, Jay.
So this is kind of tied into my other thing is, okay, so we expect all these drivers to do things, and I talked about how they can just make mistakes. So when a driver does mess up, or in your opinion messes up, as a trainer, do not throw this childish tantrum at the driver and call him every name under the book because he pulled your horse too late or pulled your horse too early or didn't do what you thought he should do. It's a sport. There's going to be mess ups and it's going to happen. And the good thing is you're probably going to race next week. So calm down. It's going to happen. Just take a little relax and just say, hey, I really thought you should have done this. You can critique him in a calm way, but just don't flip out at him and, call him a hack or whatever just because the guy didn't do what you thought he should have done. That is so stupid.
I wouldn't want to do it, but I think it would be funny. I think it would stop real quick if people were just in the paddock filming this stuff and then they put it online. I think, I wouldn't want to do it because I wouldn't want to spend the time actually doing it, but I think I think this would have to be a collective thing by people who, whenever you watch a race, just film the people underneath the TV watching it and watch these idiots who are throwing temper tantrums and just be mindful of yourself. I think, but it's also too, the same person that's throwing a temper tantrum is also the person yelling and screaming when his horse wins. So it's kind of a catch-22 because I also love to see when people are so enthusiastic about their horse winning, but they're also the same people that throw themselves when their horse loses. So I mean, it looks bad both ways, but it also looks good both ways. So I know that was just something you wanted to touch on before we.
I've been guilty of it too. I've had a driver like get parked out the whole mile, and I just throw a fit. I'm throwing my hands up in the air. I'm ready to like take his head off when he comes off the track. And usually by the time the horse finishes the race and comes back, I can calm myself down to just like look angry but not say anything. But I mean, I get where people can allow this to happen to them because it's happened to me. But it's just something to like for trainers again, as we're talking about all this stuff you need to be mindful of at the track to improve our product and improve just the business as a whole. Is understand that people screw up and we're going to live another day. The horse is still standing upright and walking back to its stall for a bath. It will be okay.
I would say awareness is the biggest factor throughout that is kind of woven throughout this entire episode. Is just be aware of the people around, be aware of the work put in by the caretaker, by the driver, by the trainer. I mean, those three areas are three different styles of work. And I think that we all need to be mindful of each other on top of the owner putting in the work of owning the horse. So there's all these different areas that we all need to be aware of, because if you think that you have sole reason for that horse being successful, you're wrong. Unless you're owning it, training it, driving it, and taking care of it. That's the only time, unless you're doing all four of those things, you have no right to be, to take full credit of the horse. So I think that just being aware is probably the best thing that we can do for this industry. Aware what needs to be helped, aware what needs to work, be aware of what needs to be fixed. I'm done, Jay. I got nothing left to say. What else do you have to say?
It's awareness and respect. You cover. That's all it is, and it's something to apply to your entire life. But we're talking it specifically in harness racing because there's kind of a lack of it in a lot of situations.
So is that it? End of episode. We're gonna do our shameless self promotion now.
Absolutely. We'll take it away here.
All right, so I'm Ryan Macedonio. You can find everything at TrotCast. Visit trotcast.com. Go back and listen to all the other Revolution episodes. We're starting to stockpile these things. Video's up. We did audio season 1. Now we're doing video. We're innovating the game. Take it away, Jay.
I'm Jay Hochstetler. You can find me on Twitter at JD Harness. Thanks for listening and join the revolution.